We're going to talk today about hope. And hope is one of those words that you don't often find in a spiritual community, at least in a science of mind community. I remember maybe about 14 years ago, I put hope into a spiritual mind treatment in my practitioner training. I heard about that. Reverend Catherine McDowell said, Karen, we are religious scientists. We don't hope. We affirm. We don't hope. We know. We don't hope. We embody. Yes, Reverend Catherine, yes. Never put hope again into a spiritual mind treatment. And yet, I do believe that hope has a place. It does have a place. Now, as many of you know, I have studied with Bruder David Steindl-Rast, who has built his life on 3 pillars, on teaching forgiveness, gratefulness, und Hoffnung. Hoffnung is the German word that is usually translated into hope. But it is different. It is not this hope, I hope the weather is nice at my wedding, Or I hope she's going to ask me out, or he or somebody is asking me out. Or any of those hope ideas, like the flicking of the coin. Ooh, I hope my team wins, this. No. Hope is different. Hope is exactly what Cerise just sang about. Hope is the deep knowingness that we are one in the one. And that if I open my entire being and I am vulnerable to the divine having its way with me, that feeling, that is hope. Some of you might have noticed we have an Advent wreath on the platform, and I have to go over here because it makes me cry. Growing up in Germany, everybody had one of those. It was in every household. And the first candle that was actually lit last Sunday, because that was the first Sunday of Advent, stands for hope. It stands for hope. It opens up this time, this Advent season, this time of preparing ourselves to receive the gift of light by the birth of the Christ child. And so it's hope. And I don't think it's, I think it is on purpose. Because as I studied hope this week, what has become really clear to me, that hope is what opens us up to peace, to joy, and to love. And those are the 3 additional candles. And I'm actually going to light the second one because today is the second Sunday of the Advent season. And so this is the candle of peace. So how then do we prepare ourselves? Well, before we go there, let's have a look at how our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, talks about it. God is that from which every transformation arises. This means that while we live in the eternal, which does not change, we are forever drawing from the possibility of the manifold expression that give variety to existence, and that makes living interesting. That, I believe, is where hope comes in. Hope opens us up to not only know that the infinite has prepared the kingdom of heaven within us, and it is for us to draw from it that which we want to make manifest in our life. But hope shows us how to do it. I read a lot about a researcher named by C.R. We'll have a slide for him. Schneider, I believe is his name. And he says that in order for hope to be present, 3 things have to be there. We have to have a goal. We have to develop pathways to get to that goal. And we have to have agency. So let's start with the first one. Let's start with goals. If I ask you, and this is not a surprising question as we approach the end of the year, how has your year been? Have you loved enough? Have you forgiven? Have you experienced life as a gift? Have there been moments of absolute bliss? Have you walked through challenges? And as we look forward to the completion of the first quarter of this new century, isn't that amazing? 2025. What are your goals? What are you thinking about? What do you want to experience this next year? I have many friends, we often talk about it, people who take deliberate time away from their day-to-day life and go out and maybe go to Cottonwood, which what we just did, or spend a day at the Franciscan Renewal Center, or just clear their schedule for a few hours to sit down and ask themselves those questions. What is it that is yearning within me to be experienced, to be shared with the world? I often ask myself why we don't spend more time doing that. And I almost wonder if it is because we are a little afraid to hear those goals. We are a little afraid to hear I am going to do this. I had lunch with one of our community members a couple days ago. And during that lunch, we had one of those moments, and we said, we're going to do this. And it was like, wow, how are we going to do that? And we were reminded the how is not ours to know. We have to show up for the inspiration. A great way to show up for inspiration is to have a covenant. I am not going to ask you to raise your hand if you have one, but I'm going to share mine with you. So I created a covenant for this decade that I happen to be in. Now it's not my 30s, but that's sweet. So I created a covenant for this decade, and it's hanging in my office. And what it does, whenever I am inspired, whenever something comes up where I'm like, oh, I don't know, is that mine to do? I can look at this. I can look at it and see if this is in alignment with what I set out a couple of years ago to create in this decade of my life. And you have heard this. If you have been to New Vision Center for any length of time, you have heard, if the vision is clear, the decision is easy. If the vision is clear, the decision is easy. You know, when that part of us comes up and says, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, let's think about it. I have those talks with myself. Karen, let's think about this. Helpful. If you have a question within you, maybe I want to explore a covenant, we have many beloveds who can help you with that, who can share with you exactly how to do that. And did you know, and about 90% of you better say yes, that New Vision Center has a covenant. We are a covenant community. We have, I think there are 2, 4, 6, 7 intentions that we look at weekly and ask ourselves, are we doing that? Are we creating programming? Are we offering classes? Are we experiencing what we set out as a community to experience? You probably have heard that we're going to start this wonderful midweek spiritual gathering in 2025, where every Wednesday evening at 6:30, something spiritual is happening here at the New Vision Center. It's either an art project, or it is coming together and discussing what we are talking about in this month's theme, or it's music, or it is gathering and sharing a meal and exploring different faith traditions. Every Wednesday has a different flavor, and yet all of it is designed to do exactly what we as a community set out to do, to experience spiritual community, to gather, to grow together, so that we can be uplifted and set free out into the world to do what we came here to do. To bring hope, Hoffnung, to others. I'm just going to pick one of them on our covenant, and you tell me. We bring light to our intention to awaken to the power and presence of Spirit within through spiritual practice. Yes, right? That's what we do. We gather, we come together, and we have spiritual practice together. We bring light to our intention to nurture spiritual development through youth and family ministries and science of mind education. Yes! I just have to share an absolute fantastic win that we had this week, this community. On Tuesday was Giving Tuesday. Within 24 hours, this community raised $9,000 for our youth and family ministry. Yes. And here is what is community for me. It doesn't matter. There were, I think, 26 beloveds came together and felt a yes for it. And it's blessing not only those 26 beloveds, it's blessing each and every one of us. If we stepped into this fundraiser activity or into a different one, or if we come by when we drive to work or something and send a loving thought to the New Vision Center, if we serve in the youth and family ministry, if we send our kids there, it doesn't matter. Do you see how it all comes together? And that is what spiritual community is. Not each one of us has to be involved in every one thing. And together, we're serving the world. So back to the 3 parts that it takes to experience hope is to know our goals. Know your goal for this coming year, for this next decade in your life, for a new partnership, whatever. Know your goals. And then we are asked to develop pathways, because what happens when we set out for a goal? Something big, and then everything just works out perfectly and we have to not worry about anything, right? Yes, I'm so glad that's your experience. It's not mine. But here's what I have learned about hope. When we take the time to get clear on this is what I'm going to do, and we are exploring a particular pathway, and if there is an obstacle and that doesn't work for some reason, because we are so clear, we can develop other pathways. Like water. Imagine water in your mind, right? What does water do if it's flowing and there's an obstacle? Water finds its way, another way. And so that is what we are invited to not only think about that one path of getting to our goal, but to be flexible and to develop alternative paths. Because what happens when we do that? Well, we develop a I can do this attitude. We have agency. We have confidence. Sometimes I see some obstacle quiver when I show up. When I know what is mine to do, I am doing it. And so that deep knowingness, that expectancy, that is a flavor of hope that I think can really serve us. And so I think we have a couple more words from Maya Angelou, who I just absolutely love. And she says this: on this platform of peace, we can create a language to translate ourselves to ourselves and to each other. At this holy instant, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ into the great religions of the world. We jubilate the precious advent of trust. We shout with glorious tongues the coming of hope. All the earth's tribes loosens their voices to celebrate the promise of peace. And there again it is. We can all celebrate the birth of Christ. If we are Christian, if we are any faith tradition, nobody has a claim on it. Ernest Holmes always used to say, nobody has a claim to the truth. Nobody has a claim to hope, to peace. We all are invited to participate, to allow it to have its way with our hearts. And so here's the invitation. I implore you to clear your schedule. A morning, an afternoon, a day, a weekend. Clear your schedule and then hang out with an empty notebook and ask yourself, what is it? What is it that is moving within me that I have a tendency to not look at because it frightens me a little bit? What is it that I am called to give to this world? It makes us vulnerable to ourselves and to others. And I say, do it. Because the world needs us. The world needs us. Spiritual practice. We talk about it every Sunday. Not because we don't know what else to talk about, but because it works. Find your spiritual practice. What lights you up? Sit, look at a candle, get still, open up, listen, walk a labyrinth, dance, whatever spiritual practice works for you. Just do it. And that, beloveds, is how we open ourselves up to have a greater experience of hope in our lives. That hope, not the one that Reverend Catherine McDowell said, do not put that into your spiritual mind treatment. But the hope that knows, the hope where I know what is mine to do, I know what my goals are. I know how to reach them. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to go that way. And if that doesn't work, I have another idea. And all of that builds up this confidence, this deep knowingness that we have in this community and that we can benefit from individually. I can do this. We can do this. Are you with me? Yes. Yes, let's do it. Thank you. And so let us engage in one of our favorite spiritual practices. We're going to have in spiritual mind treatment, our form of affirmative prayer. And I invite you, if it resonates with you, if you're a practitioner student, or just feeling it, I invite you to rise. I just find that standing, opening our hearts and minds to this blessing of the divine helps the flow. And so it is with a grateful heart that I turn to the allness of life, that which has always been and will always be, sweet spirit. The first cause, light, love, beauty, power, joy, all those qualities of the divine. And as I speak them into this room, I realize that they are at the very center of our being. They have always been there and they will always be there because we have access. It is right there. It is in our heart. And from this deep place of knowingness, from this connection to the divine, I speak a word for the blissful unfoldment of life itself, for all the beloveds within the sound of my voice, all beloveds everywhere. The realization that sweet spirit is right where we are, just waiting to be poured forth through us by our hands, by our feet, by our minds, by our creative endeavors. And so it is with a grateful heart and so much love that I simply place this word into universal law. I know that it is done. It is already so. And together we know this as we say, so it is.